What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Punch Truck Nerd, the podcast where three friends, three amigos, three bambinos come together to talk about nerd shit. My name is Luis Gonzalez, and with me is
Miguel Sanchez
and
Jeffrey Vega.
That's right, everybody. We have a special guest for this special episode. Guys, we're doing a Last of Us review for Season 2, Episode 2, based off the game Last of Us Part 2. A lot of twos here, but there's three of us doing it. And if you want to check out our main episode, that's coming out later this week on Friday. But we're doing this special episode right now. Yeah. Jeffrey, I've been wanting to have you on this podcast for so long. I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I bribed Luis like $140 to be on here, and he finally said yes.
I did. And with that money, I bought a little portable handheld device that I've been trying to play Chrono Trigger on. But nice. I'll let you know some more info about that later. No, guys. So yeah, Last of Us Part 2. So just a little context for everybody. We had an episode last week, Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1. We had a bunch of noobs reviewing it. You know, Jeff, you don't know this, but me and Miguel together, we bought two of our friends a PlayStation and the Last of Us game Part 2 just so they could experience the game. We love it. And so like, guys, before the show starts, please play the game. So they're playing it. They're in the middle of playing it right now. And they were able to review this first episode. So I said, you know, we got the noobs on last week. Let's get the pros on this week. It's a big episode. Spoilers. We're going to do the spoilers. But before we do anything and before we dive into this episode, Miguel, you weren't there last week. Jeffrey, you obviously weren't there last week. I'm going to start with Jeffrey here.
Yeah.
Our guest. Jeffrey, what are you thinking about this new season so far?
Okay, so just some quick context. The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, I think is one of the greatest stories ever told in any medium ever. I was on the red carpet for The Last of Us Season 2, and I interviewed Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin. You know, this is for our job that Luis and I work at. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, I am actually super not envious of you that you have to adapt this game into a TV show. What a tall order. I don't think you could pay me enough to do that. And I love that game so much. And making a TV show probably sounds like the dream come true, especially for HBO. But my God, you know, it's got to be different because it's an adaptation. And I think everyone was kind of wondering, all right, when are they going to kill off Joel? Yeah. And I'm kind of glad that they stuck with it in the beginning. I think that I feel like it's really interesting because like in the game, we're like, oh my God, we're not going to play as Joel. This is kind of crazy because the trailers had misleading footage of Joel in place of other characters, which is great. And just sort of getting those moments, you're like, oh, this hurts. However, with TV shows, it's funny because like, I feel like this is normal stuff for HBO. I mean, people are used to big characters dying all the time in TV shows, Game of Thrones, right? Like, so it's like, to us, we're like, oh God, we're not ready for episode 2. And then people watching, I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I've had friends respond to my Instagram stories. They're like, I'm never watching this show again. And I'm like, just you wait. It's going to get much worse.
Or better, depending on how you look at it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised that so many people are like, I don't want to watch it because Joel's gone. And it's like, guys, there's such rich storytelling that's going to happen because of this event. And you're cheapening, you're losing out on the experience if you decide to cut out now, you know?
Yeah. It's very like, I feel like all of us as gamers and as movie and TV lovers that we're like, one of my best friends has never played the game and she's like flipping out. And I'm like, nice. I know you're not going to play the game, but I kind of wish you would. And you can, like, they have games on like cinematic mode. You can play it super easy, like no shade in that, play however you want. But it's like, I feel like the show will make people play the game. And it's fun to kind of know, you know, it's like, I feel like this is like our version of like, this is what book readers felt like, you know, like when they, you know, for whatever reason. I don't know how to read. So, you know, that's why I have video games. But I really like it. You know, it's funny. We made a video at work today about, sorry, I don't want to talk about work.
Yeah, do it.
But we made a video based on an op-ed on IGN that basically said that they didn't like how in the show Abby tells Joel why she's killing him. Right. But in the game, you don't know that until like halfway through. And it's just kind of like okay. And then I get narratively, you want to be able to tell the viewer, because I feel like just TV viewers demand a different kind of like, well, why did you kill him? And obviously, like, we know the part 2 is going to be more than a season. So like, maybe they are like, we can't expect viewers to like wait years for season. Yeah. And it's just like, no, I swear it's good. Like, again, you could probably just learn how to play video games in the time that season 3 will come out, which is fine. And what a treat, because it's like, you know, one of the best games ever made. But I still think, you know, that being said, you know, and I think I kind of agree that it's like, oh man, this definitely is going to have it's going to hit differently. But at the same time, you know that it's always going to hit differently, because the viewers are never going to be able to control Abby. They're never going to be able to, you know, put yourself in their shoes and see. Because like by the end of it, and I don't know how you guys feel, but like I'm in love with Abby at the end. Like it's such a heartbreaking story where people are just like, no, she sucks forever. And it's like, yeah, she killed a beloved character, but it's like she literally had such a parallel journey to Ellie's. Where it's like you can't even be mad. Ellie killed more of her friends than, you know. It's just like, it's so funny. I was talking to
like she was pregnant, wasn't she? Or like what, Mel, right? Or what happened with?
Yes, yeah, oh yeah. She killed one more human on top of all the crew. Because of Mel. Yeah, it's which, you know, if you haven't seen the show, I hope you didn't just hear that. Just rewind, do a 30-second rewind on the podcast. But it's just such a funny thing of just like, oh man, I hope that this like opens up people to wanting to play the game, or at the very least, like watch videos of side-by-sides that my team is making. They're just like, oh, look how cool this is. Does this make you want to play it? Because it's a whole different story. And an adaptation should be different. It shouldn't be 1-to-1. And I totally respect that. Otherwise, like, I loved the Siege on Jackson, like, very kind of, it reminded me of Game of Thrones, like, you know, like all the Night Walker guys.
With the wall happening. The wall.
Yeah. It was just like, it was like Gabriel Luna as Tommy being a badass, and then like Jon Snow next to him. And I was like, oh yeah, what's he doing here? But I really loved it. I bawled, you know, Katsy and I just like, we knew it was coming. We were crying. I was just like silent over those credits with no music. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to hurt, but like, this is this is the story of part 2. And it's so funny, like when the game came out, and Luis, I know you played the game a little bit after it came out, but like watching the trailers where it's just like, oh wow, so obviously going to kill Ellie's girlfriend. Like, ugh, whatever. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess that's fine. And then they kill Joel. I'm like, oh yeah, the game couldn't really be about anything else, right?
It could,
because it needs to be that like brutal. What else? Man, I wish I want to ask Neil, like, when was the moment in the writers' room where you're just like, well, we could kill off Joel, like that? Someone said that for the first time. Maybe it was Neil, you know, Hallie Gross, the narrative lead on that game. But man, I'm having fun. Like, I think I'm nervous now because we don't know like what's going to happen and how they're going to pace it. And like, I feel like if you played the game, you have an idea where they could end it. Obviously, there's like a big kind of like midway point that is also heartbreaking. Again, if you're watching this and you're like, man, nothing can get worse than this.
It can.
I'm so sorry.
No, I think it's so important that happened. Like, I always had faith, and I know people were like, "Oh, maybe it won't happen." And look at him; he's an IMDb in every episode or whatever. We're like, no, that is the story. The story is a revenge story and consequences. It is about a dilemma between what is the right thing to do and what is not the right thing to do. Like, do you kill Ellie? No, I kill everybody else. Well, guess what? That has consequences. Does that make you a bad guy or good guy? I don't know, but either way, there's this other person, Abby, who, you know, has to deal with those consequences, and you're gonna have to pay up. And then what does that do to Ellie? I think there is just some sort of like, that is the story, and that is the meat and potatoes of it. And so I felt like you had to do that. It was such an impactful scene. I was nervous about watching it because I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. But the way that episode 1 played out, from the whole like party sequence and the way it was almost like, oh my God, this is hitting emotionally the exact same thing like the game. I was so excited because this is also the director of Succession, Mark Mylod. And I was like, I trust him. I feel like he could take care of this. And he did. And he amped up not only just like the infected attacking her on the fence, which you remember in the game, but also that scene when Joel, basically dies, and almost unceremoniously at the end when it just like ended, and then she just stabs him in the neck. And it's not like this Hollywood like big old sound effect or huge impact. It's just like quick and done.
It's done.
Wait, can I say something to that?
Yeah.
Because when I first saw, because like, yeah, in the game, they kind of like cheat the angles of it. I mean, you definitely see Joel's like head with like blood squirting out. Like it is graphic in the game.
It's more impactful there. Yeah.
Yeah. The show, I was kind of surprised. Like at first I was like, oh God, it felt so anticlimactic, just very quick. Like you seeing the golf club stabbing in the neck. But the more I sat with it, the more like real it felt, where it was just like, yeah, that's just like that's just what it's, you're right. It's not a Hollywood moment. It's just like, yeah, no, like it's over. It's done. Like the person that meant the most to you is like gone forever. And it's just, you're sitting in that. And then like, I don't want to jump the gun too much, but like her crawling to Joel, like that's like, we don't get that in the game.
It blacks out in the game.
Cuts to black. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, like this, look, I know people like fucking hate Bella Ramsey. Like she's so good in the show. Like I just like, it's so heartbreaking. I'm like, oh, this is Ellie. Like this is Ellie climbing. She's just like, it's very heartbreaking. And I loved that you brought up the death because the way it was anticlimactic, because it's just so like harrowing. It's just like, oh fuck, like you're in like, I was like in shock with it. Like I almost had to like rewind, but then I did it because I wanted to live in that moment. I was like, oh yeah, that was sick. And then we actually saw it early with a screener. And then when it was Sunday, I was like, oh, the internet's going to lose their mind. And I couldn't even rewatch it. I was like, I'm going to rewatch it so it's fresh in my mind. I'm like, I don't actually know if I can. I don't want to be sad again.
Miguel, I know we've been rambling over here, but like you too, like what has been your thoughts on season 2?
I mean, so far, first off, just like one of the things we talked about with the last season was how they really cranked moments up to like 11, where you thought you've played the game so many times, you know the moments, you know the beats, and they were able to kind of still surprise the game players like with these moments. And so to Joel's death, to Ellie crawling over to him, I think that's one of those moments where they cranked it up more, you know, where they gave like the audience just that much more to feel in that moment. I do have some like just general complaints. It is like a general casting thing for me. I don't think it's just Ellie. I like Bella Ramsey. She was one of the standout moments of Game of Thrones for me. And I think like she absolutely can like command a scene. I don't have a problem with that at all. I do think when you play The Last of Us Part 2, the jump from Ellie Part 1 to Ellie Part 2 is very like, whoa, okay, this is she's at a different stage in life. And I wasn't quite there on episode 1. Episode 2 kind of put me there though. And I think that was what I needed, was like when Joel is gone, I think we're really about to see like that next version of Ellie. So I'm really looking forward to that. The Abby, I know there's like some casting things where they're like, oh no, she's not as bulky as Abby is in the game. Okay, well let's see what the difference is. I thought the overall like Abby crew felt so young when I watched them in that first episode. And I was a little like, I don't know. They look like babies. And Luis said something that was like, really kind of put me into focus. He was like, hey, Miguel, like, I think you just might be old now. You know, like, like the way you like look at, the way you like when you were in high school, like when you were in middle school looking at high schoolers, you were like, oh, they look so old. But now you look at someone who's a high school age and you'd be like, oh my God, that's a child, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
somebody in college, the same thing. You see somebody a freshman in college, you're like, I'm a freshman.
You're 21.
You're like, you're a high schooler. You know what I mean? And you're like, no, they're actually of age, you know?
And I'm like, damn, I got to remind myself.
I literally went to USC as like a guest speaker for a journalism class. And they'd be like, yeah, talk about your career. And I'm like, do not do this, guys. You will not get a lot of money. And they were like all about to graduate, and they were like children. I almost stepped on one of them. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then I was like, do you guys remember IGTV? I was walking with a cane. I was like, oh man, you know, Vine used to be 6-second videos.
6 seconds long.
10 minutes. Yeah, no, but I can see that. It is crazy to remember that Ellie is 19 in part 2.
You have to remind yourself.
Obviously,
yeah.
You know, But it's like, it's so funny too, because like, God, I love Kaitlyn Dever so much. And like, I know she had like, was originally going to be Ellie, but they're like, she's too old. But like, it's so funny seeing all the behind the scenes from the episode. And it's like there's a lot of pictures of Pedro and Kaitlyn like holding each other, like hugging, and and I'm just like, that looks like Joel and Ellie.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no, maybe, I don't know. I want to like show I don't have the image, but it's just such a funny, like, again, Bella is amazing. I love them. And Kaitlyn is like perfect as Abby. I know people are like, oh, she's not bulky enough. And the op-ed also talked about that, where like, it's like, oh, you don't need to, she doesn't, like, Neil and Craig's reasoning was that it was mostly for gameplay. Like, you don't need her to be bulked in the show. But a lot of people were like, oh, well, you need to, she was training herself to kill Joel. It's like this huge thing that they even set up in the first episode, which is not in the games. And it's just like, I'm going to kill Joel. I'm going to kill Joel. And then it's like, oh, episode 2. Oh, we killed him. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Credits roll for the whole season. We did it.
I think I agree with, I talked about this last week in the last episode, but I'm trying not to be one of those internet people that talks about, oh, I want it to look like this or like that. But I think the thing is, it narratively works and it adds to the character, and it showcases what where their mindset is at and their perspective is at. Like, if you see, like, the first shot of her, she's kind of tiny, 4 or 5 years later, and you see a physical change, you're like, oh my God. Not only was she mentally focusing on Joel, but she was physically, like, she was thinking about him so much that she had to just pump it out and to become this other literally transform into this other person to take on, because they've heard rumors of who Joel was. Joel is this 6 foot older gentleman, and she wants to take on Joel, and having that physicality already immediately tells me who she is, what her focus is. And I think that did a lot to that character. And it is a bummer to me that we don't get to see that part of her, that side of her, in this thing. I think she carries the energy and the emotion. And when I see her, when Abby suffering or dealing with kind of the fallout of her father passing and what she's going through, I'm emotionally there. Like, I'm with you, Abby. I feel what you're feeling, and I'm game. I do wish that we had that little bit of that in the character, but I don't know how you guys feel about that.
One of the things I talked about on the game itself was how people were so upset that Joel wasn't around. He dies so early. You play as Ellie, and then in the second half of the game, Abby's whole gameplay mechanic is essentially Joel. You know what I mean? So like everything you wanted to play from The Last of Us Part 1 into 2, you really get that from Abby. And I think that's interesting in the casting of a TV show perspective is you're missing out on the like gameplay Abby and some people Ellie, but the TV show also gives you the perfect casting with Jesse and Dina. You know what I mean? Those characters were like ripped straight out of the game.
Yes. And Jesse too, when he's having a conversation with Ellie when she wakes him up and like, hey, we got patrol. I'm like, where's my controller? You know what I mean?
That is happening in the game.
Literally the game. Like,
And so I think it's funny that in the game, people were complaining about, oh, it's not the same. It's not what I want. It's not this. And the TV show is also kind of giving us a little taste of that too. The casting is not what I want. It's not what I want. But then it's also like, but here's like the perfect casting. Here you go. You could be happy with this. You know what I mean? And they really are so good. Dina was a standout in this last episode. I just really love. And you know what? One of the things we talked about last season was that cranking up to 11 on some moments, but here they are really playing with the adaptation of how we put certain characters in certain scenes, and we're changing that dynamic, and it just works in a way that goes, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't do that in the game. Dina and Joel going off on that excursion. I'm blanking on the word, but the patrol. It's like that gives so much more weight to Dina deciding to go with Ellie later on in the journey. And here we also get to see Ellie and Jesse together, and it's like how we get a little bit more of that like awkward dynamic of we both like the same person,
right? So
it's one of those things where my knee-jerk reaction is, oh, I don't know about this. But then the more I sit with it, I'm like, oh, I kind of love that decision.
And Jeffrey, I think I want to also talk about like things where like, yeah, we are playing these characters, but it's a TV show. They have adaptations. There are changes, like you said, the Dina and Joel. One big adaptation that kind of I loved because I got to see a new side of it was this whole attack on Jackson or the town. That's obviously not in the game because, you play as Joel, Ellie, Abby. You don't play as a townsfolk person while Joel and Ellie are out and about. And I thought this was so cool. They're bringing back the whole idea of what's it called? The mycelium network. Like if you touch it, it alerts everyone else. That was mentioned last season. And so they're bringing that back. And I love that that's being incorporated. We get to see how Jackson works. And for me, it was a very tense situation where we're jumping from one tense situation to the other. What did you guys feel about this new scene that they added?
I loved the siege on Jackson because our review was like, oh, there's too much happening, but I actually like it as a misdirect because like there's so much happening that it's like there's no possible way that Joel will just be like brutally killed off, right? Like they're just like, and we all watching know we're like, oh God, well, this is going toward a certain scene with Joel in the lodge. And also I'm worried like, okay, well, I think Tommy's not going to die. However, it's first of all, even crazy that the scene exists because like Tommy was originally in the lodge when Joel died. Like, sure, he was knocked out, whatever, but like Tommy's not going to have that survivor's guilt that he had in the game that makes him pursue them in Seattle. So it's almost interesting that like, oh my God, like the fact that you brought up that it's like, it's Joel and Dina. Like I can't wait to see their relationship because Isabela Merced's amazing. But it's like, what if it's Dina that goes after them in Seattle? Again, it would change too much because like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, again, Dina is knocked out there. Tommy is kind of knocked out there, but you're worried because that the TV show didn't have that moment of just like, Joel's like, y'all act like you heard of us or something. And then that's when your stomach turns, which we didn't get that line in the show, which I was bummed at. But Pedro Pascal did an amazing job. Obviously, like the dialogue was so minimal in the show.
I think you get that from the eyes. You know what I mean? Like if you play it a lot, you want it, but you get that feeling of like, shit, how do you guys know?
TV is so much more like show, don't tell, you know? So it's a lot more like the emotional acting that's happening.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, honestly, Pedro just standing here like this, being so silent, it was so sad. It was like, well, like I made it this far and I fucking got into a trap and I have to pay the ultimate price. Meanwhile, we're getting Tommy with like the most badass poses with like a gun flamethrower. Like you're just like, holy shit. I'm like, there's all the stalkers and the runners and they're like, how do you know who's like a townsperson running away? And like Tommy's wife is like kicking ass, and I'm like, where's Tommy's son? Like it's too much happening.
Last week I was talking about how bright their clothing was. I was like, God, Tommy has like a bright red ass jacket. Dina's got a bright ass yellow jacket, and then I realized when that was happening, oh, maybe this works out when they're getting attacked by all these like dark, intentional. And the bloater looked really good this time. I felt like when it was coming to attack, I just felt like it was like, wow, that looks good. Miguel, what did you think about the siege on Jackson or whatever?
So my interpretation of what was going to happen for Tommy was for a half second was like, Maria's going to die. That's what's going to happen. And Maria's death is what's going to, in tandem with Joel's death, is what's going to push Tommy forward. Because Tommy's not there to see Joel, but he will be there to like pick up his wife's lifeless body. That's where my mind went right away.
Do we know if she got bit? We don't know. Like they don't. It seems like she's okay.
Don't they come together in the end? I'm pretty sure they do. I
feel like she's a big part of the end game that I can't imagine they kill her off.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was an adaptation. I said, let's see where we go, you know?
Yeah, it's such a scary feeling because like, you know, like obviously like Tommy kind of goes off on his own, and I just like I want to know how the show is going to show his reaction to finding Joel's not coming back. And like, you know, I know at the end of the episode they're walking back with the body bag, but it's just like, how are they going to get to Seattle? Like I assume it's going to be Dina and Ellie, and you know, we're going to get the scenes of them in the open world Seattle, and they're going to be on Shimmer, and it's just like, I don't know, it's such a I love the siege because it's just like it picks up really quick. I will admit the first episode. The first episode of season 1 is a movie. That's an hour and a half pilot. They get the depressing opening out of the way with Sarah, and then they're like, okay, and then here's like 30 years later. And then like this episode is just like, okay, like after I watched the first episode, I'm like, all right, it's very different. They're showing Abby and everybody right away, like something, you know. And then like I feel like they're gonna probably follow the game closely. Like obviously we have like kind of like, oh, we didn't get the like Dina and Ellie like hookup scene that happened so early. Maybe they'll kind of get their relationship will get again. It's like TV stuff that I feel like I'm too dumb for. It's like the people are creating stuff for television that they have to do it certain ways, and they're probably reading all the comments and listening to the podcast and be like, these idiots don't know what they're talking about. We have to save the kiss for the end. Meanwhile, we're just like, we can, with a game, you can kind of do it however you want because like they'll get to experience it however they want. But like, yeah, I'm really scared of like what's going to happen next.
You mentioned something that made me think about this. One thing that I've been kind of missing in these first couple of episodes that I thought was so fun in season 1 were these like cold opens where they like gave a little bit more of the lore. They gave a little bit of the background. Sometimes it was game focused. Sometimes it wasn't. I mean, the talk show in episode 1, that very first scene, that wasn't in the game. And I'm kind of missing those moments where there's like, and I guess because like in season 2 now it's all happened, right? Like we're already in the thick of it. We don't need the background story anymore. But even in season 1, like we met the native couple, you know what I mean, in their house, and some people said that was like some of the best characters, and they were in the show for 5 minutes, and so now I'm kind of like, I want a little bit more of that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, give me, I've played the game so much, I know the story, I know all the lines, I know all the beats. Give me that fun new thing, I
wonder if when we go to Seattle day 1, when they're like, that first part where you have the map and you're going to different places and you're leading up, and I wonder if there's going to be something there that's new, like a survivor or some sort of situation where they're pinned up against. I don't know.
I want to say I read something recently where they were like, we do have an episode that is standalone. And I was reading all these like not conspiracy theories, but like theories of like what the episode could be. And like one of the ones that I read that I thought, oh wow, that would be so fun, was like the bank robbers in Seattle who like are trying to get the money out of the vault on day 1, the outbreaks happening all around them, but they're doing like a bank heist at the same time. I'm just like wishful thinking, like, I don't know, but I just would love a little bit more.
We're getting an episode about Eugene who was not in the games.
That's got to be what it is. Yeah.
When I interviewed Neil, I was like, well, Bill and Frank episode was like obviously the standout last season. Nick Offerman won an Emmy for it, and it's like, how do you pick which characters to expand on? That. Same in episode 1, like we see Kat, Ellie's ex, who made the iconic tattoo. That I'm sure we'll see more of. And with Eugene, it's like you kind of already know from episode 1 that Joel kills Eugene in the show because Catherine O'Hara, that was her husband, which is crazy. I love that everyone thought Catherine O'Hara was going to be like the Seraphite cult leader. Yes. And I'm like, nope, she's a therapist.
Guilty as charged. I also thought that maybe was what was going to happen. I bought into I eat these internet comments, you guys. It's too much.
Literally, like, because I think I know who it's going to be. I think it's going to be Alana Ubach, who's the mom in Ted, the sequel, the prequel show. She was cast in it, and she was mentioned in an article as like Jeffrey Wright is like the cult leader as well as Alana Ubach. I'm like, oh, I bet she's like the like deceased cult leader, but it's not confirmed, obviously. But like, come on, you can see the resemblance. Although that's what they said about Catherine O'Hara. Sorry, Miguel. The Eugene episode is like he's just like in the game. Because I looked this up. He died of like natural causes. Like one of the very rare characters to just die of old age in this world. Oh, does she? Okay, great, even better. Like the fact that that now it's like revealed, like, oh, Joel had to kill him. Maybe he got bit. Whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, what? I assume we're going to see that soon. Probably not next episode, because that would be really funny if they were just like, all right, forget all that. Here's Eugene. He's high.
They could, though. They could be like, we all need a refresher. You know what I mean? We all need like a break. I'm like, oh, that would be rough because I want to keep the story going. You know?
Oh, God, I know. No, it was funny when you said, Miguel, that you thought Tommy's wife would also die. Oh, my God. There was just, we don't want to live in a world on the internet where Joel and someone else die in the same episode.
Wouldn't that be, but that would be the crank to the 11. You know what I mean? Where
they go crazy for this. They'll kill you, Miguel. They'll kill you.
They would drag me out and hit me with the golf club.
Tough.
Shut the fuck.
They're gonna kill you for your opinions, man. You can't
shut me down.
That's no, but I definitely, I love where you're coming from, though. Like, like you could pull that off in a Last of Us show, but like, I don't know. It just feels like too much because, like, obviously that's the whole crux of the rest of the story. But man, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
What'd you guys think about the dogs in this episode? They introduced the dogs.
Oh yeah, killing all the clickers and stuff.
Anyone? I like that they were like, oh, the dogs are helpful to the people in Jackson, when it's like in the game, I don't think you see dogs until the wolves, right? Like,
right.
It's like,
yeah, I mean, until you're like in Hillcrest, right?
Yeah, and then the dogs are against you, you know?
Yes.
Oh, are they going to kill dogs in the HBO show? There's no way.
I mean, what's funny, I know I did, and I feel bad about it. But that was great about the show is like I killed him, and then I cut as Abby, and then like, ooh, puppy, and I'm like, oh, I'm a terrible person.
That. What a story element, you know?
That's why I like playing the video game so much, is because you get the other side of like that experience where, because when I first played, I was telling Miguel, like, I was like, I'm going to fucking kill Abby and I don't care what happens. And I felt the exact same rage and revenge as she did, because I literally finished Last of Us Part 1 and then I think I jumped to Part 2. So I still carried Joel very close to my heart and I had him in my experience. And so I was all Ellie. And so when we flipped to Abby, I was like, uh-oh, now I feel confused. And maybe is this a story about a villain? Is Ellie the villain now?
Yeah.
And, you know, like, and I love the flip on that and seeing the different sides of it. And that's why I was like, guys, you got to play this game so that you can just relish just a little bit more. And one of our friends actually is now he played for, I don't know how many hours, but like a lot of hours. He went from Hillcrest all the way to Abby. And now he's caught up. And I was like, okay, you can watch episode 2, because in episode 2, they reveal that Abby says, you killed my dad, who was the doctor, Joel. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I don't want that to be revealed to my friends who are playing the game. Like, play the game a little bit so you know that information. So that's happening right now. But yeah, I don't know. Any closing things you guys want to mention about the episode before we wrap up?
So I got lucky. My wife, she played The Last of Us Part 1 during COVID. I made her play it with me. And then I was like, after we moved to Colorado, I was like, hey, do you want to play The Last of Us Part 2? Since you played the first game already. You might as well, right? And
you lured her into a trap.
I was like, you might as well, right? And she got, I think, before Joel died, and she was like, Miguel, I don't play video games. Like, I'm so bored. And I was like, that's okay. But really, beyond Joel's death, the thing that I was thinking about was like, my wife will not kill a dog. You know, I was like, I cannot have her play Part 2. That would be greater than anything else that happens in it. But because she hadn't got to the scene when we were watching the episode last night, I was surprised. First off, side note, I'm surprised at how many people on the internet are like, wow, gamers didn't spoil this episode for us. We had no idea this was going to happen. When it's like when season 2, I'm sorry, when part 2 came out, it was spoiler ridden. You know what I mean? People were spoiling that shit left and right. And so I'm surprised there's so many people who are like, I had no idea Joel was going to die. I'd be like, are you on the internet? But
it's a nice reminder that we are like in a bubble. Like, people have no idea that, like, incels are like, I can't believe they would do this. I'm like, it's not that serious. It's like a very beloved video game.
It's you're gonna survive. Joel didn't, but I was surprised that, you know,
I wouldn't say too soon, but it's been 5 years.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? I was surprised that she actually she felt very connected in that moment. And I feel like I told her that it happened when it happened in the game. But she was still like, oh my God, I can't believe he's gone. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like, that's buckle up, because here we go. Yeah. So that was, for me, was kind of fun being able to watch it with someone who hadn't quite experienced it and got to kind of see it live firsthand.
That's cool.
Luis, when you were talking about how you started to play as Abby and then you got confused, I have so many pictures on my camera roll from June 2020 when the game came out, toward the end game. And I know we were playing this during the most depressing time in the world in our lifetimes.
I remember.
There's spoilers for, the end game and maybe the TV show, but, like, obviously Ellie and Abby find each other again and they're fighting. And this is in the theater. And when you're losing the battle, the loading screen tips will be like, do not attack Ellie head on. And it's like a silhouette of her, like, running. And I was like, I'm trying to kill the character that I like loved for like 10 plus years. Like, it's such a crazy thing. And like, this person is like a mass murderer, and like she has her reasons, like Abby has hers, but like it is so harrowing, and I just don't know how they're going to elicit those feelings. I will say I am curious, for my closing thought is, if at some point when they start Ellie's sort of descent into madness for season 3, could they do the exact same season from Kaitlyn's point of view or Abby's point of view? Because I just don't. Is that like? Do you,
I feel
no,
like
I want that. I want that. Absolutely.
Because it's like you have to have that feeling of when you're sitting on the screen, you watch the most harrowing midway point scene that I won't say, and then it says Seattle, and then it fades in day one again, and you're like, wait.
I'm starting over, you know?
Holy shit.
And you see it all from this other angle. And then you know what else is coming up too. You're like, when she gets to the theater and all these things, you're like, oh, she goes to the aquarium.
That's
and then,
the thing.
Like, oh my God, we know what's going to happen from her side.
Right. And I think that my worry is like, are TV viewers going to like sit through that? Or are they excited knowing that they're going to see what they didn't see? Because like, that's a very common thing. Like Devil May Cry did that. They did like a episode 4 in the middle of the season where they showed like, here's why the evil rabbit guy is the way he is. And it was like the best episode of the show.
You know who did it? Oh my God, I just can't believe I just thought about this. You just reminded me, is Lost did that one season where the whole back half of the plane survives the plane crash, and you get like 2 or 3 episodes in those long ass early 2000s episodes formats of the background of what was happening throughout all of those days of season 1 and 2 of Lost. The Last of Us could 1000% do that. Sorry, I am locked into you right now. This needs to happen, and it can be done.
I feel like Craig Mazin, the showrunner, is doing it with Neil Druckmann. He did Chernobyl with HBO as well, and he's kind of working with Neil because he's done HBO shows before. He's in love with this series, and I think he wants to capture the spirit, the experience of it all. He is bold and willing to take those bold actions. Why not do that? Like, we don't have stories like that in the past. Why are we going to cheap out and then water it down so that it fits another mold? Like, let's break the mold. Let's experience this in a new way. I mean, we'll be re-experiencing it, but for like TV viewers, what a fantastic way to experience a story. Like, go to season 2 and revisit those moments. And obviously we still at the end of that season, we have to go to, what's it called? Santa Barbara, right?
Oh, God.
It's not like the whole season 3 will be, Seattle. I'm sure they'll truncate that. Well, and then we have the Seraphites. I don't really know how it's going to go down.
That's the craziest thing. It's like if I just like pulled you in, it was like, look where I am in the game right now, and you're like Abby climbing like skyscraper mazes. Yes. Like, you would never believe it's from the same thing. That, like, you're right. They should go all out, because like, this is the biggest game ever. This could be the biggest show ever. Craig, like, as you said, like, Craig, I've talked to Craig multiple times. He is the nicest guy. He gives a shit, and like, he's going to make this good. Like, I believe in them. I'm just like, hey, good luck. I don't want any part of this because this sounds like the hardest thing ever. But like, they can do that. They can get away with all of that, I feel.
You have to have that arc with her and the Seraphite person. Like, that is a whole, that's like the Joel and Ellie kind of thing too. You know what I mean? You get to see it from that point of view. But Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming. I mean, this can't be the last time we do this again. Like, definitely for like the finale, maybe like a mid-season, catch up or something. But dude, I know sometimes me and Jeffrey don't always meet up in the office, but when I was playing Last of Us Part 2, anytime he was in there, I was like, hey, Jeffrey, I'm at this point of the game. And I just felt like I needed to tell somebody, and Miguel was here too. I was also catching up with him. So this is such like I don't know, I'm having the time of my life that the show's on right now. So continue catching up. Thank you guys for listening. Tune into our episode later this Friday. We're going to do a Sinners review, talk about some news. But until then, it's been me, Luis Gonzalez, and with me's been
Miguel Sanchez,
Jeffrey Vega.
That's right. Until next time, later, Gators.